All right, ladies and gentlemen, today I'm going to show you the next step for your shape perspective drawing, and that is adding color. Once you erase all of your extra pencil lines that you have, hopefully you drew lightly enough that you can erase that. Now is the step to add color. Keep in mind that for each shape that you color, you can only use one color. So your triangle here can only be one color. Your rectangle here should only be one color. But if anything is in a 3D space, even if it is a solid color, depending on where the light is shining, you have highlights and shadows on different sides. So for that example, I'm going to show you this colored block right here. It is kind of a lightish green, and if I turn it around, you can see it is one solid color. However, as I'm turning it, and you can ignore the lettering on it, but you can see that different sides are lighter and darker depending on where the block is. So if I hold it up like this side is light, this side is medium, this side is light, medium, and then dark, because most of the light is coming from over here. So as you color each shape, first of all, you need to decide where your light is shining from. I would suggest picking either corner or one of the corners and then just draw a little sun in the corner. So I'm just going to draw a sun like this so that I remember that that is where my light is coming from. So for my first one, I'm just going to pick orange. And what's helpful too is to label your shapes first, because no side should be the same color. The fronts of your shapes, I would suggest creating them to be one color. So you could do a medium color for the fronts of your shapes and then decide what would be lighter or darker depending on that. So for starting out with this one, the front of my shape would be medium, and if my light's shining from the top, what would get more light? Would the front get more light or would the bottom? My light's shining from above, the part underneath probably wouldn't get as much light. So I'm going to choose that to be my dark color or my shade. And then this would be the medium color. For the shape down here, if my light's shining from the top, you can say a good rule of thumb, as I said, is to make the front of your shape your medium color. If my light's coming from here, what would get the most light? Probably this. So this would be my light color or my tint. And then this would be my shade. If you decide and you think, if visualizing the light coming down, if you think this side would be darker than this side, you can adjust it and change it. There's not always a clear-cut answer with your shape, but for the most part, you'll follow that rule. So here, most of my light would be on this side of the triangle, so I can make this my light or my tint, and then the front I can make my medium color. If you have three sides, like with this shape, I would make probably this side would get the most light. This side is a little bit covered by the triangle above it. So you could add a cast shadow from the triangle if you wanted to, but I'm going to make this my medium color because it is on top and the light's coming from the top. And then the front would then be a darker value. With curved shapes, you'll create a smooth transition. So I'm going to have this be my medium color, and then along the curve it will start light and then it will fade and get darker as I color down. So it's a smooth transition and a smooth curve. With my triangles, or with my more complex shapes, it is a little bit trickier, but keep in mind, the bottoms of the shapes are going to be the darkest because the light is coming from the top. So I'm going to mark all the bottoms of the shapes dark and then decide, would the front of my shape be lighter or would this side be lighter? Because there's a piece coming out that might create more of a shadow, but you decide what you think would look better. And you can make changes as well as you're coloring. I'm going to say this would be medium and the front would be the light color. You'll want to mark all of your shapes as you go or before you start coloring all together. So then remember, you take one color to color your shape. So with my box here, I'll start. I'm going to erase my marker, and I'm going to color it medium. So I'm just going to press down a medium pressure, color around the edges first, and then you can color the inside. If you try to color it very fast by going like this and scribbling it, it's not going to get as smooth of a color as you can see. You can still see my lines there from trying to rush. You can color in circles or just in small little sections using the side of your colored pencil. So if this is my medium color, this bottom section has to be darker. So I'm going to use a heavier pressure so that I can see a difference between my colors, between my oranges. So if I press a little bit harder, you can see that it is a darker value and it looks like it's more shadowed or has more shadow on it. When you squint your eyes, you should be able to see a difference between all of the sides of your shapes. If you squint and you can't see a difference, it looks like it blends together, that means you need to either erase your lighter color to be lighter or darken the dark side. On the triangle and on other shapes that you can see three sides, you'll want to figure out those sides before you start coloring. I'm actually going to make this my light side. The front is going to be light, left medium, and dark will be the bottom because it's away from the light. So if you have your light side, you can choose different colors for different shapes. It's up to you. I'm going to pick blue. And my light, I'm just going to barely press down and color that nice and solidly. Should outline the bottom first, or the edges. So you'll color that, and then the left side is medium. I'm erasing my pencil lines first because otherwise they show through. So I'm going to get a little bit darker with when I color this side. You'll notice that you might not be able to see your pencil lines anymore, and that is actually what should happen. If you see a box or a shape, it doesn't have a black outline all the time, and so by coloring these sides with different values, you're creating the different planes and showing the three dimensions without pencil lines. So here's the medium, light, medium, and then this has to be very dark. So I'm going to press way, way harder on the bottom. If it's not different enough, I might have to take an eraser and try to erase some of the medium color out. So there's the bottom. You can decide what color scheme you want to use for your shapes, if you want to just choose a couple colors or you want all of them to be different. But each shape can only be one color. So that's what you'll do for all of your shapes. With your curved shapes, as you're coloring on the curve, make your pencil lines follow that curve as you're coloring. So if I pick green here, this top is going to be lighter. And then as I'm coloring, I'm curving around with the curve of the cylinder. And then I will gradually get darker and darker, and it will be very dark on the bottom. And then as it curves up, I'll get lighter. Sometimes it takes going back and forth and layering your different pressures to make that look effective. So there is that side that curves and has a transition of value. And then the front can just be one color because that is flat. But anything that has a curve, you should have a change in value on that curve and curve with the shape. Make sure you label all of your shapes before you color them, and then if you do have extra time, you can add some detail and designs in the background. Happy coloring!